Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. And speaking of reporters, let's get one of the best in the business here. That's Ethan Greenberg, the New York Jets team reporter who's joined us countless times here on YouTube.com/BoyGreen25. Let's welcome him in. Ethan, what's happening, man?
Hey, Paul, what's happening? Appreciate you having me.
Of course. So first off, one of the big reasons I wanted to get you on, not that I need one, but I got to talk about, of course, all the great work you guys do with the Jets 360 and Flight 2021. If I'm getting the title right, that's coming out later this month. We saw the trailer. Fans are on the edge of their seats. So, what can you tell us about this project?
I don't want to tell a whole lot, but I would say buckle up. It's going to be real exciting. And in the past we've had weekly episodes. The way this is going to be revealed is going to be, I believe, all at once. So it'll be a 4-part, maybe I believe it's 4-part series, and you can watch it essentially on demand, and it's going to be good. That's all I'm going to say for now, because I don't want to put expectations in a certain spot, even though I know that the expectations would be exceeded. But I have not seen anything from it yet outside of the trailer, like yourself, and I was going to say that it looks good, and I will be buckling up as well.
One more follow up nugget, and it's on exactly what you just said. That is the unique thing about this edition of what you guys are going to be dropping. In the past, last year, for instance, it was like an episode a week almost kind of thing. Expectations was like every Tuesday or something. Last year, we were like, ooh, okay, next episode, almost like a Hard Knocks kind of thing. And this year, the Jets make the decision. It's going to be like a Netflix drop. Get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a binge sesh. Do you know anything that went behind, I guess, the decision to go with that process instead of releasing it like a weekly like you guys did last year?
It's a great question, and somebody else asked me that as well, and I honestly do not know the reasoning behind it, but I'm excited to see how it comes together. And you could binge watch it if you wanted to, right? Like, there won't be any cliffhangers. So in the past, how we've released it weekly or bi-weekly, whatever it was, it's okay. Well, I wonder what the next episode holds. Well, just like Netflix, to your point, if you want to get a quick little snack, you press play on the next one, you continue rocking and rolling, and that's the way that you can consume this.
Ethan, by the way, are you in your personal life a binge watcher guy? Do you like to spread it out? Because I'm going to be honest, I'll use Game of Thrones as the example here. I was a late comer to Game of Thrones, so I got to binge watch a lot of it, and I reached the final season just like everyone else did. And then I was forced on a week to week basis to analyze for an entire week of waiting. Ah, boy, what could be coming next? And that's what we had to do last year for the Jet series. So, which are you? What side of the fence are you on? You like
Yeah,
binging it
that's a
all at
great.
once or spreading it out?
It's a very good question, and I as well was also late to the Game of Thrones parade, and I binged watched it enough to catch up. Like, it was right after the Super Bowl that I started, and the last season was coming out, and I caught up in time for the final episode of the final season. Maybe just the entire final season. It feels like forever ago. But if that's any indicator of how I watch shows, once I get invested, Paul, it's lights out, man. It's tunnel vision. I got to get to the end, whether I like it or not. But there obviously, I do get sick of it at a certain point. I'm like, okay, I got to pump the brakes a little bit here, because I've been on my couch for X amount of hours just crushing Game of Thrones or whatever. But I do enjoy the binge. Like, there's a show called Bodyguard, or The Bodyguard, on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 6 episodes. I cranked it out in 2 days.
You're a trooper.
So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, speaking of troopers, Zack Wilson is another one. You guys are apparently both film junkies. You for Bodyguard, him for film, for getting ready for this season. So we're already seeing the similarities. That's massively important. Speaking of Zack Wilson, Jet fans are starving. Not every OTA and voluntary workout thus far has been open to the media, so we've been waiting for morsels and nuggets coming from either Robert Saleh press conferences or those media opportunities. Ethan, give us your take, man. You're back in the office, which is great. Seeing guys back there, you, Eric Allen, and of course Olivia Landis and everybody there. What have you been able to pick up from the newest quarterback for the Jets, Zach Wilson?
Well, I think Coach Sala said it best, and he's talking about the rookie ebbs and flows. That is standard for any rookie at any position. But obviously, when you're the quarterback, especially of the Jets, you go number 2 overall. People are going to be curious to how you're playing, and there's no denying the talent that he has and why he was selected number 2 overall. You see the live arm, you see the touch pass followed by, you know, the rope per se, or the fastball, and then he takes a little off, throws a changeup. You see that often in practice, but there are still some rookie moments where, let's say, the window's a little tight and you're like, you know what, I'm going to fit this ball in there and it's going to go. And it doesn't, because that's the difference from college to the NFL. And I think that's normal. And I think if you're a Jets fan, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the coaching staff, but all the reviews come back favorable, where it's, he's a rookie, he's playing well, even though you're still making mistakes, and you expect him to continue to grow. Now, the one thing I'll say, not just about Zack Wilson, but about every single player, rookie and veteran alike, in this time of the year, is that in June there are no pads. And what Coach Saleh said this: when the pads come on in training camp, that's when things get real. And that's when things get real for all the players on the roster, not just the quarterback. And that's really going to be the next step, or the next test in the evolution of the New York Jets.
I love that description of Wilson. Again, the ability to throw the fastball, the curveball, have a couple of different pitches, in your arsenal to be able to go to. And that's a beautiful segue to what's happened today. We have not seen the video yet. Ethan, I know you're probably sitting on the tail of the tape. Jet fans are on the edge of their seats because they saw the wild descriptions from beat reporters who were not allowed to take video, but just simply describe it with their words. It seemed like at the beginning of practice, Zack Wilson uncorked one, and we haven't seen a lot of deep balls from all the analysis we've done so far on Zack Wilson, from what we've seen and from what's been written. But it seemed like there's a beautiful pass to Elijah Moore. Ethan, describe it to us, man. What was it that was sending Jets media and fans in a buzz earlier today?
Well, it was a sweltering hot day to begin with. So we were all sitting there, waiting for something to happen. Team periods come along, first play, and to describe it to you, the offense was coming towards the media. So if we were at the base of one end zone, the offense was coming towards us. And first play of practice, Zack Wilson drops back, Elijah Moore down what would be Zack Wilson's right sideline, and threw a beautiful ball. And it wasn't really like a diving catch, but it was one where it was like a full extension grab, and then Elijah Moore kind of like slid afterwards. And he popped up and he put up his hands like as if he caught a touchdown, but even though it was not a touchdown, it was well before the end zone, but he was clearly excited, as was everybody in attendance. And it was a very nice play, very nice ball. You'd like to see it a little more, and Elijah Moore has been very impressive as well. I'm sure you're gonna ask me about Elijah Moore also. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say. And Ethan, I know you're a busy guy. You were unable to respond to it, but what went viral is the last time you joined me right before the draft. You said one guy to keep your eye out on, an Ethan Greenberg guy, is Elijah Moore. So again, you pulled out the crystal ball. You said Jets. You said Elijah Moore, and of course it happened. So on top of the lotto numbers we all want from you, so we can.
Right.
Retire. I got to ask you, for you, I mean, how much pride did you take when the Jets, with the 34th overall pick, despite trade offers and everything else, they're like, you know what, screw it, we're taking Ethan Greenberg's guy. Ethan, who is it? Elijah Moore? Got it. Let's go Elijah Moore. And I'm sure Zack Wilson was very happy with your decision, Ethan.
Well, you're putting a lot of pressure on me, Paul. And now, like, this is the thing. It's like a Syracuse player, right? Where it's, if a Syracuse player gets drafted by your team, whether that's football or not, right?
Sure.
That pressure then becomes on like the fan, to me, especially like among like friends in the building. It's like, oh, well, if that's your guy, then, okay, Syracuse, like, what do you got? And then if it pans out, it's great. If he doesn't, that's not great for you. So now I feel this added sense of pressure. But Elijah Moore has been real impressive, man. And, hearing him talk to the media and seeing what he can do on the field, Joe Douglas said he was a top 20 player on the Jets board after the draft, and that's why they stayed at 34. And yeah, I can see why. He's very quick. He's very fast. He's got the 4.3 speed. He was ultra productive at Ole Miss. And, I think that the connection between Zack Wilson and Elijah Moore is starting to grow every day, not just on the long ball, but you see some intermediate routes and stuff as well. And, I've been impressed. There's still a lot that he's going to need to learn. And again, with wide receivers in particular, when you're going up against cornerbacks in June, you can't really have contact because of the rules. So really, Elijah Moore has looked as good as he can. in June, but what's going to happen when the pads come on? That's a whole other test, because there was a receiver a couple of years ago who lit up minicamp, and I'm not going to say his name, but he lit up minicamp, and then he didn't have a great training camp, and he didn't make the 53-man roster at the end of that year's training camp. So that's just, one example. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Elijah Moore, but you got to take everything that happens this time of year with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. And you and Eric and everybody that, as you've been doing these OTA recaps and previews while they've been going on, you've told that story before, and it's accurate. Again, it is important to note that this is, again, no contact, no pads. Like, again, it's hard to pull things from all of this. But one of the things I think a lot of people are curious about is who Zack Wilson, the youngster, the rookie, who is he vibing with? You've mentioned Elijah Moore. That makes sense. We've seen a couple other receivers step up to the plate. In your mind, who does he have the best connection with, the chemistry on the football or off the football field?
Well, off the football field, it's hard to say, but I will say that if I love watching the Jets offensive line and Zack Wilson and players go to Islanders games and, enjoy their time at the barn. I mean, that's cool, right? I love that. On the field, Elijah Moore is one of them. I'd say Keelan Cole has had an impressive spring, again, with a grain of salt, and Braxton Berrios as well. I said that the other week in one of our videos, and the one thing about Berrios is that he's really taking advantage of opportunities. And Jamison Crowder's not at OTAs. Robert Saleh said he's dealing with some contract stuff, and Berrios is taking advantage. He's not, I think that he's become, a steady producer in each of the OTA practices that the media has been at. And again, no contact. So you got to keep it with a grain of salt. But I would say Moore, Cole, and Berrios would be the three guys. But all the different receivers have flashed at times. And so I think that those would be my three for now.
Again, we're speaking with Ethan Greenberg, a New York Jets team reporter here on YouTube. And Ethan, I guess I have to ask you, as we're progressing our way through here, one thing that I'm interested in is Robert Saleh mentioned kind of the veteran conversation when he's spoken with the media about media's like, what about a cornerback? What about a backup quarterback? What about this? And Saleh has seemingly said, no, I'm cool with the young pups, and kind of paraphrasing here, of letting them get these opportunities. We could figure that out down the line, pointing towards training camp or something of that nature. Are you in the same boat? Because at some point it's like, man, a veteran could really, maybe stabilize the unit, add some experience, bring a guy who's been there, done that at any number of positions, as we've mentioned. But on the other side, there is a good point to Saleh. These young guys get these invaluable opportunities right now that they can build upon. Where do you lean in that conversation?
Well, it's a good question. I think that, I don't know if I lean one way or another. I really just see both sides, because I think, for example, there's like a sect of Jets fans that are like, we need a backup quarterback, or we need a veteran at X position. And what are you waiting for? Where on the other hand, it's like, well, okay, to Saleh's point, if that veteran comes in June and he eats up reps, no contact reps and OTAs for a lot of the young guys where things are slower, and you can digest more and stuff like that, and these guys get more reps, what's the point, right? Like, what benefit does it have? Like, does it make a difference June 8th or July whatever, right before training camp? So I don't know if I lean one way or another. I just think that there's two sides to the coin, and I do think that in times like OTAs and Bless Austin told me this the other week in an interview. He was saying that in OTAs, when you're finally able to slow things down and you don't have a game that week or a game the next week, and you can sit, you can digest, you can really buckle down or buckle up and learn what you need to and implement it on the field at a slower pace before the pads come on and the live bullets start flying, it can only benefit you. And for guys not only like Bless, who's, a veteran in the room there, and he's still a very young player, but you got day three rookies, right? You got Jason Pinnock, Michael Carter II, and Brandon Eccles, and not to mention guys like Isaiah Dunn in undrafted free agency. and all the guys that are coming back who have not been a part of this system, for all of them to learn at a slower pace and to get accustomed to this system, get used to the NFL in general. I think that's invaluable. And then also you think about if a veteran joins, to use the cornerbacks room as an example, because that's the one that Saleh talked about, that guy will probably have an easier time adjusting to the defense than a rookie would, just because he's seen more football. He's used to the game speed and he's used to the verbiage and all that stuff. So I feel like that's why he said it, and I completely understand.
Speaking of veterans, let's bring up a guy that reportedly has visited the Jets. Saleh has confirmed the visit and said, hey, man, we're not opposed to bringing in good players. And that good player he was talking about is Morgan Moses, who has not missed a start over the last 6 years, 96 for 96. I mean, that is, haluva reliability at the offensive tackle position. I got to ask you, Ethan, to put on the old speculation cap here. Again, you can't have enough offensive line depth. You got George Fant there. You have Moses. Both of them have really only played offensive tackle at the NFL level. So, it's easy on Madden to switch the old thing to right tackle, right guard, and start moving pieces around. And Joe Douglas did say that at the draft, the best five will play. So maybe that's the philosophy here. If Moses came in, speculation only, of course. Again, this guy's a free agent. Who knows what he's going to do? But, in a weird world, he ends up being a Jet. Where do all the pieces fit? Could Fant? Is he athletic enough to slide inside? Does he become a swing tackle, kind of like what he was in Seattle? Thoughts, Ethan? Curious.
Yeah, it's a very difficult question because I think it's difficult for many reasons. One, like you said, it takes two to tango. So, he comes to the Jets. Morgan Moses, if the Jets were to offer, he would need to accept the offer over other teams. The other part of it is, to your point, if he has all tackle background, same with George Fant and same with Mekhi Becton, those are the three guys that you would imagine would be in line to start. And I don't know. I mean, I do think that George Fant's like an athletic freak. Like, we forget that he was a collegiate basketball player. Could he play guard? Probably. I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put that past anybody. Will that happen if Morgan Moses actually ends up a Jet? I don't know. I feel like that's hard to speculate just because you haven't seen anybody do it. And to your point, if this were Madden, easy solution. You see the overall ratings. You're like, okay, what is it? What is his rating as right guard or left guard or whatever, center, doesn't matter. But I do think that from a 30,000 foot view, to your point, you said it earlier, you can never have enough good offensive linemen or depth at the position, especially when you hear a lot of the media analysts talk about how the offensive line depth across the NFL is not where it should be. And there's a reason why the offensive line is or why you win games up front. And the offensive line is obviously a half of that equation. And, what downside could there be? I don't know. I mean, what's wrong with depth? I mean, we'll see what actually happens. But I think it's an interesting question. I do think the best five will play, but there's going to be a lot of competition up along that offensive line, even at the guard spots. When you think about guys like Alex Lewis, Elijah Vera-Tucker, Greg Van Roten, and Dan Feeney. I mean, Lewis, Van Roten, and Feeney all have starting experience. Obviously, Vera-Tucker's a rookie, but there's a lot of competition on this roster, I would say, even compared to last year. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the pads come on. And also, you always have to take into account, like, what if someone gets hurt, right? Knock on wood. So we'll see what happens. But, you can never have enough depth at any position.
And speaking of Feeney, man, if he brings half the energy he's been bringing to Islander games, I think the Jets have found a future All-Pro, quite frankly, with everything he's brought to the table. So
you got to get him to the dome.
That's it. That's what I'm waiting for. So can you put in a good word, Ethan? Give him the old Syracuse whisper and try to get Feeney to the dome. That may be the secret sauce for us.
I think I can do my best. I would make sure, Feeney doesn't seem like he would mind the cold, but I feel like, we got to make sure it's like a marquee matchup, and he'd go.
Absolutely. And before we get you out of here, Ethan, there's a lot of intriguing positional battles. Now, a lot of those won't be won during voluntary OTAs or minicamp next week, but ahead of training camp. Is there one that is saucy? Is there one that's, revving the engine for you, Ethan, that you're circling? You're saying, ooh, this competition is going to be hotly contested, and that's going to be the one to watch for Jet fans heading into training camp?
Man, that's a good question. I'm not just pausing to buy myself time because I
Sure.
do think there are a lot. I think that I'm very curious. The Jets are in a 4-3 defense.
Mhm.
Who is the third outside linebacker?
I was going to ask you that. That's the one that intrigues me the most.
So you have CJ Mosley, you have Jared Davis, Jamie Sherwood, Hamza Nasruddin, the two rookies that full-time safeties crawling down being full-time linebackers with the Jets. Then you got Blake Cashman, who's dealt with injuries his first 2 years, but fits I would say, the size profile and also fits the athletic profile of a run and hit fast linebacker. So that I think is interesting. But again, like it's hard to evaluate linebackers in this time of the year before the pads come on because, they got to thump around a little bit. So I have my eyes on the linebackers. I think a lot of people will say, kicker, just for obvious reasons. That's like the classic or the cliche training camp battle, right? And it's the one that you can evaluate probably the easiest in terms of the fan because it's like that guy made more kicks more frequently than the other guy, etc. I would say that. I think maybe one that gets overlooked a little bit is maybe tight ends.
No?
Like tight ends is interesting because right now there's Chris Herndon, Ryan Griffin, Tyler Croft, Dan Brown, and Trayvon Wesco. And Wesco has really been the de facto fullback for the team the past couple of years. So let's say he's a tight end fullback. That's four pretty good options there at tight end, and Kenny Yeboah, the undrafted free agent. So I think the tight ends, there's some good competition there as well. And I think it'll come down to what do you offer not only on offense, but what can you do on special teams? And that's really the case for all the positions when you start getting in the depth spots.
And Ethan, actually, last one before we get you out of here. The Jets announced this earlier today. The preseason opponents and game times were locked in. It's a new 3-week preseason schedule. That's weird and new, but I see the one in the middle, a trip to Lambeau. I mean, historic Lambeau. I mean, that one's pretty sexy, not only for Jet fans, but I guess a lot of you guys, too, to have that one on the old preseason schedule.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the travel contingency will be like just because of, it's
Sure.
feels like things are changing every day. But also, I think it's cool that Matt LaFleur and Coach Saleh are like extremely good friends. Saleh was the best man at LaFleur's wedding, I believe, or it was vice versa. I should know that, but they're like best friends, and so that's cool. And Mike LaFleur talked about that relationship a little bit in his press conference. So I think it will be a good experience, and it'd probably be a great learning experience for a lot of the rookies and even guys that didn't even play in the preseason last year, right? Like I'm trying to think, like someone like Denzel Mims, right, who started the back half of the year. That's going to be a cool experience for him to get some preseason reps. Even let's say he goes up against Jair Alexander, one of the league's best corners, assuming they're both playing in that game. And like that's a cool experience. And to experience Lambeau, even though it won't be full capacity, Lambeau in terms of just a regular season game, maybe they show out for the preseason. I don't know. I don't want to put it past them because they got some great fans over there in Green Bay. But, I think it'll be a good experience. And, I'm sure Coach Saleh was like, hey, Matt, can you throw this look at this team, whether it's offense or defense, that we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sure that he could pull a favor for him,
Yeah, I hope so. Well, Ethan, thanks for spending a few minutes. Always gracious with your time. I appreciate it, man. Of course, all Jet fans are looking forward to Flight 2021, so that's coming out later this month, June 21st to be exact. All 4 episodes will be dropping. Good luck to you and the rest of the Jets 360 team. You guys have been cranking out content. We're going to have full capacity, as we found out earlier this summer for Jet games this fall. It'll be great for all of us to be back and seeing all you guys there.
Awesome, Paul. Appreciate the time, and make sure that you enjoy the summer before it starts snowing again in Syracuse, probably in August.
That's right, man. We'll appreciate it. All right. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, Paul.